The next order of business, and I'm really happy to have Doug Jeffcoat with us. Doug plays an incredibly important role with the city with Public Works, and we were just chatting about the role he plays in the budget preparation, and particularly including the CIP budget. He has been with the city 27 years.
27 years.
Yes, so that kind of institutional knowledge is something we would all benefit from. Originally, you were in the banking business, I understand, so maybe that's why the financial side of things comes naturally to you. And as I mentioned in preparing for today, our association is kind of somewhat more focused on the downtown area, and the format we use is asking you to make some introductory remarks, and then we kind of go to a Q&A thing. So we have about 25 minutes, if that's comfortable for you. So take it away. We've got the camera up here and all the folks in the room. So we're really pleased to have you with us, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here. And yes, I've been with the city now going on 27 years, 10 years as the Public Works Director, and came to the city as actually running their billing office and doing that. And so I've seen a lot of changes in regards to time here at the city. In my position, you know, I really like more to listen than to talk, but I think it's important. There are three issues that are I think are out there that are going to impact not just downtown, but the city in the next coming year and the years to come. I'd like to kind of talk about those. And the first one is the penny sales tax, the surtax. You know, in November, the county will be putting on the, you know, for the voters to vote on the extension of the penny sales tax. Penny 3 will be coming to an end here in December of 24. And for the city of Sarasota, that was about $127 million.
Over 10 years?
For 15 years. 15. We went to 15 years in the third extension. They're estimating for the extension, the fourth extension, about $191 million for the city. However, you know, that sounds like a lot of money, but in 15 years, that's really not a lot of money. But it plays an important role. I mean, for Penny 3, you know, there were really important things that were done, you know, like the playground, the circus playground at Payne Park, Robert L. Taylor. You know, those are some of the big ones, the 10th Street boat ramps, Centennial, the upgrades there. And then, you know, those are some of the key things, but Penny plays a big part in regards to some of the ongoing stuff, such as resurfacing of our roads, you know, in the police department in regards to funding vehicles and things of that nature. So, you know, it's an important thing. Sarasota County is the lead in regards to this. All the municipalities, the school board participate. So I would advise, you know, go out to Sarasota County's website. They've got a section on their website related to the penny sales tax extension. It lists out all the projects that all the municipalities and the town and the school board have proposed. And it plays an important role in regards to it. So I advise you all to take a look at it. And without it, it's going to be a big impact on quality of life. If you know, so the next one is Smart City Initiative. This was a strategic plan initiative for the city, and for my department in Public Works, there are a couple major initiatives that we're looking at. One is working with the Florida Department of Transportation in regards to what we have is, you know, the automated vehicle connections. As we see these things coming about, if you have newer cars, you're already starting to see some of the instruments and things of that nature. And we're currently working with them. We have a $500,000 grant, and then we're matching that for about $1 million to put some AI technologies into our intersections with equipment. And basically what that's going to do for us is it's going to give us a lot more capabilities in understanding pedestrian movements, vehicular movements, and stuff in the intersections. But the other side of that is with your newer technology in your vehicles and stuff are working through the Department of Transportation in regards to standardized messaging. Your vehicles pick up that messaging as they're approaching intersections. If there are issues that you have related to a certain place. So that's where technology is going. And being able to be a part of that is a key for us in regards to moving us forward. We're in the process of acquiring that equipment. We'll probably look at mid-summer next year, starting to install that. We'll be starting off with about 15 intersections within the city of Sarasota that we'll be looking at that. Another part of that is as you go through intersections, you notice that we have cameras up there, and a lot of times that's what's being used to identify what's happening in the intersection and things of that nature. One of the things that we've seen with cameras is that we run into issues such as storm events, especially here in Florida, where we get fog cameras or we got low lighting. So a lot of the equipment is now being changed out to LiDAR. And what this basically is a 3D imaging, and it eliminates that fogging or those dark spots and gives us a much more clearer look in intersections in regards to pedestrians, bicyclists, and it gives us that ability to manage those intersections in a much better way. And the third one is we just started, and previously Alex Davis-Shaw was our city engineer, and she actually started the process about a year ago, updating our engineering design criteria manual. And that manual is our standards for the city's right-of-way in regards to what impacts developers or buildings can have on that. And there's a lot of changes have happened in the city, and it needs to be updated. We're in the process of going through that update process. It's going to be about a year to go through that. We started with community forums, meeting with different groups. There will be much more input allowed in regards to that because it has such a big impact in regards to that. But I want to make clear that everybody understands that this manual is our standards for the city's right-of-way. It has nothing to do with private properties or anything like that. It's our guidance for the city's right-of-way. Like I said, it's going to be about a year process. It will have to go to the commission for approval. So there will be much more in this next year as it relates to that.
What's the name of that manual?
It's the engineering design criteria manual. And it's the standards that are set for developers or for even residential people who are coming in and to do something as it impacts the city's right of way. And it gives them those standards. And we look for consistency so that everybody knows. And that's been kind of the challenge. The challenge is that a lot of people have said, we don't know exactly what we can do, or in these circumstances, it may be different than the others. And especially as it relates to doing, developers or people who are coming or living in Sarasota County, Venice, Manatee, and stuff like that, that making sure that there's some consistency so that everybody knows they can go to a document, they can see exactly what their responsibilities are. And that's what those are the big three that I see that are definitely going to be play a major role in the next couple of years, and be happy to answer whatever questions I can. And, I open it up to any other topics that you may have as it relates to public works.
Well, let me kick it off by a statement on the penny tax. My understanding is the city cannot actively, legally go out and promote this. You can provide information, but as far as advocating for it. So I think that we want to be an advocate, because I think it goes without saying, without that $191 million, we are in an incredible world of hurt. So particularly in light of a tightening economy, inflation, what would have seemed on the penny tax to be a pretty decent bet 6 months ago may have changed a bit. So,
and that is correct. The state legislature passed rules and laws that said that the communities, municipalities, and government agencies could not go out and advocate. It had to be the responsibility of the public or groups associated with it to be able to advocate for this. So in my point of view, I can educate, but I can't say one way, don't ask me, am I in favor of it or not? I can only educate.
Is Dan DeLeo leading that campaign?
I'm not sure who has the responsibilities for
I
Sarasota.
know he's done it in the past, hasn't he? Dan DeLeo.
So we'll take that under advisement. I think it's just kind of a duh kind of thing that it's.
So are there more than one organizations promoting the tax?
Yes, there are. I mean, in the past, you've also had your community foundations, Argus, things of that nature. And again, for Penny 3, I can speak about, plays such an important role in our community that all these organizations understand that without those dollars, it becomes a significant burden in other ways to be able to fund the quality of life that we have in the city of Sarasota.
Well, Penny 3 passed without too much trouble, right?
I believe it was like 66%.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, open it up to other board members for questions for Doug. Peter.
With regard to the community input, the standards engineering design manual, do you go out, how does one involve the community? Let's say we want to involve the downtown community association. Do we just call your office and say, we're going to put together a little meeting or?
Well, Nick Patel is our city engineer, and he's the one who's taking the lead in regards to this. We've hired a consulting firm, Kittleson and Company, and they are the ones who are going to assist us with the process. I would suggest if you would like for us to make a presentation or have a discussion, I would ask that you send it to me, and then we can arrange for that get together in regards to through the consultant.
Peter, just last week, they did hold a focus group with some neighborhood representatives. Peter and I were there. That was kind of,
you weren't.
Patrick and I were there. Kind of
Better
as a
selection.
focus group as their initial. So they have maybe started that process, and it's something that we are very interested, including Peter. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and just really at the starting point of this, I think the focus groups were kind of to get a sounding board to start off with some of the things, but it's just getting started. So I would imagine to see, as my understanding, there will be at least multiple, when I say multiple, 3 opportunities prior to us even going to the commission for public input in regards to it. I think that it's too early right now in regards to, because the first focus is like I said, there's multiple changes that need to happen to our existing one. And that's what the consultant's really taking a look at is what do we have today? What's that baseline that we're starting with? And then where do we go from there in regarers to it?
Well, how long is the process
It's going to be
expected?
about a year. We were figuring to be able to go to the commission in November of next year.
Is this how many pounds is this manual?
It's pretty heavy depending on, I think we're trying to shrink it down a little bit, but it is, like I said, it's everything in the right of way. And how do you address that?
Can you give me a sense of what do you see as your top 3 priorities for, like, in front of you right now? And then also what you see kind of being your personal concerns or projects or whatever you want to call it. When you get a sense of the community or commission feel, and then your.
For public works, and I'm only going to speak for public works. Probably number 1 is the environmental side of it. And when I say that, it's the idea of sea level rise. It's the idea of red tide. It's the idea of more intense storms. Those are the big issues that we're looking at. The second is a balance that we're having to try to now get to as it relates to transportation, vehicle versus people, bicycles, scooters, whatever. In my world, on not the transportation side of it, but the right-of-way side of it is I've only got a limited amount of right-of-way. And now I've got a lot of competition for that right-of-way, where it used to be roads and a 4-foot sidewalk. Now it's roads, bicycle lanes, 6 to 10-foot sidewalk, and landscaping to be able to protect pedestrians. And so that right-of-way width now has a big competition for it. And as I'm sure everybody on this board knows, there's probably a lot of different decision or points in regards to what's more important and how do we make that balance in regards to it. If I were in a place where I was in a county or something like that and I had all this open land to develop, it would be much easier. I'm in an urban environment that's already been built. And now we run into what are those conflict things that we have. And probably the biggest area that we struggle with is an understanding that we're not only talking about what's on top of the ground, we also have to address what's under the ground, because that plays a big role in regards to trees. If I want to plant trees somewhere, well, there's utilities underneath it. I'm not planting trees there, in regards to that. And now that's not to say I can't plant trees there, but there's a cost to relocate those utilities. And where's that money going to come from? So those are the big, things too. I think third for the city is resources. And when I talk about that, I'm talking human resources. In this environment where we're at today, it's the labor and trades are areas that we really struggle in regards to making sure that we can pay them and keep them here. I've had open positions for concrete workers and asphalt workers that have been over a year. And it's just one, housing. They can't afford to live here. I make an offer to them. They come down, they say, well, I'm sorry, there's no way that I can make it and do it here. And with construction, even though we're looking at the potential of a recession in some eyes and other eyes no, but right now construction is still heavy. And the mindset is how much money can you put in my pocket today? It's not like when I started with a mindset of I want to make a career out of it. And that's what I want to do. So that human resources part of it is really the aspect. Now, personally, in regards to that is how do I retain the ones I have? And it's just not at the labor or trade side of it, it's in my professionals in regards to that, because, it's an idea of, again, my mid-level managers and stuff like that are sitting here and saying the same thing of, I can't afford to live here. I'm going to have to start looking somewhere else. And, and those are the ones who are renting and things of that nature that, are struggling with that aspect. We're not alone in this. Every government agency is faced with it. And sadly, it's one of those things that we take from each other because they're being able to stay local. They don't have the cost. They already have a home ownership or something like that. So just kind of moving people around within our communities to do that. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would have a concern in regards to it. Funding for projects is always going to be an issue. And where I see our biggest concerns are, from my side, is the maintenance side of it. A lot of our dollars come from gas tax to be able to pay for our roads and our sidewalks and things of that nature. Since 2005, we've lost about $600,000 a year in gas tax. And, the role of that is probably going to continue based on going from a fuel system to electric. I mean, California has just said, you're going to buy electric or hydrogen, and those things. So that's going to become a big topic in the next year in regards to what is that alternative to the gas tax and how is that going to be funded? Because across our nation, that's a big thing in regards to being able to fund our roadways.
The gas tax, the drop in the amount of gas tax is purely a function of quantity and miles driven and gallons purchased, as opposed to government getting involved in.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, because the aspect there is the gas tax in the state of Florida really hasn't changed in a long time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely being driven by the amount of usage.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the climate change is one of your priorities. The Van Wezel's one of our major city-owned assets on the water. Are you able to tell us how much the Van Wezel structure is at risk from climate change?
Well, when you look at the projections, you're looking at 2050, 2070, and being sea level rise coming up a couple feet.
A couple of feet?
Yeah.
There's a.
What you're looking at is not as much in regards to what that level is what we see in regards to the more intense storms. That becomes the more concern in regards to in the near future. I mean, if you've seen just within probably the past 10 years, and it's surprising, it's not as much as the idea of the tropical storms of the hurricanes that we've had, but our winter storms that have come down and pushed, we've had more damage related to that, to Secreto Pier, to Centennial Park, erosion by Van Wezel and stuff like that from our northern storms, just because of the wave action that's being created, that king tides and the timing of those that have happened that are driving more of our concern in the near future than what we'd be looking at in the long term.
Is there flooding going on now?
Sunny day flooding? Yes, we actually have sunny day flooding happening out on, the key Siesta.
But at the Van Wezel?
Not at Van Wezel, no.
Mhm.
The Van Wezel, everything, we've done some work there in regards to right there by Boulevard of the Arts at the end, where we went in and we took out the seawall and made it a soft and took a look at that and monitoring that. We don't see the erosion happening. Where the Van Wezel is, we have pretty significantly in the past, probably 10, 15 years gone in and put in, boulders and things of that to break the water issues. And we're not seeing that as being an issue for us.
Is sewage treatment, with all the growth that we have in Sarasota, and we have sewage treatment on 12th Street, which I drive by pretty frequently, and pretty frequently you sort of get the odors coming out of there. Is the capacity there maxed out, or is
No, actually the city's in really good shape in regards to both water and sewage capacity. I would probably have to defer that to Bill Reeby in regards to all the details in regards to it. But, from a capacity standpoint, what I've heard is that, we're in very good shape. I've never heard that we are coming to a point of that being issues. I think, the biggest issues for the utility is the age of infrastructure and being able to replace that infrastructure, in doing that. And, from the sewage side of it, I mean, you read it, the papers and everything else in regards to, it's a big topic. And making sure that we do everything that we can do to control it as much as we can. However, I mean, that's the thing, we don't have pipes on top of the ground that you see every day. They're all underground. And there are things that happen that you just don't control.
So should we have an overriding concern about pipes that are supposed to last for 70 years and are corroding after 50 years and causing sewer releases and so forth?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think, in the 27 years that I've been here, there are circumstances that, like anything that you do in construction. I mean, I've been here where I've seen them bring in pipe for a brand new installation and turn around and have to reject it because it would not withstand the pressures, even being a brand new pipe going in. The anticipation is that.
So it's an anomaly what happened last week. Or...
Exactly. And that's, when they're in there now, taking a look at the pipe, in regards to sitting there and saying, okay, what does it look like further down? And because piping is put in pieces. And what you may have is the circumstance where you might have just had a piece that just was not done properly when it was manufactured or something of that nature. But when the spill happened, they did go down the pipe to make sure that they had good pipe to be able to put sleeves on to stop, put pressure back on it.
Andrew, yeah, quickly. First of all, thank you very much for your opening comments about listening and why you're here, which is great to have that. And that filters down significantly to your staff. It was very heartening 2 years ago when Dan Ornstein reached out and said, we're drafting a new landscape chapter for the EDCM. And contacted us. We got our green space committee together and had a dialogue and some feedback on it. And the recent EDCM updates, where Nick has reached out and brought in stakeholders, different stakeholders, to put ideas on the table and to listen to that. Those two things, those things go a long way to reinforcing the citizen involvement and that is being called out because this is not pervasive across the entire city staff organization. And we appreciate that your department is doing that, especially on the EDCM and anything environmental, because again, we have committees that focus on those different aspects and we're more than glad to engage. I know this sustainability, which is not under you, has reached out and there's some issues with that. Also on your smart city initiatives, et cetera. I don't know if Nick has come across emails from 4 or 5 years ago when I was sending information about curb data and how the technology, and there was conferences in Tampa that some staff went to about the need to understand the standards, because adopting the standards is what gives you the financial control over the vendors. If those vendors can't interoperate, you're locked in. And that prevents you from having a financial, flexible system there. And so if we can do some follow-up with you on that. So those are some things that I think there's a lot of knowledge in the city, and the fact that you're tapping into that, I think is exceptional there.
One trees, we're downtown the Rosemary. I keep track of hundreds and hundreds of trees being lost. And the challenge of, as you mentioned, of finding right-of-ways that accommodate those trees. That's why one of the things we were very excited about was the Boulevard of the Arts and the 10th Streetscape project, where the street would be reinvented and designed with trees using hundreds of thousands of dollars in tree mitigation money that's available. We also know that a grant that the city went after for $6 million or so did not come through. That my question is the role of grants and penny tax and funding sources. If we don't get the grants, are we dead in the water, or how, I'm saying this badly, but the role of grants in funding some of these major initiatives?
Well, are they dead in the water? No, they're not dead in the water, but they're going to take years to get to. That's the thing. I mean, because again, the cost to construct, especially in today's environment, is not cheap. What we might have been doing several years ago for $3 million is now costing us $6 million. So, and again, from a capital standpoint, we've limited in regards to what our funding sources are. Maybe sales tax being the major one in regards to funding. When you look at multimodal fees and things like that, they're specific in regards to what they can be used for. In a lot of the capital dollars, that's the case. They are specific in regards to their uses. Where grants come into play is giving us the capability of using somebody else's dollars and making our $3 million now go to $6 million. Now, what is changed for us is this new infrastructure bill that's come down is different than what we saw in 2009 in regards to the infrastructure bill that came out and the dollars that came out. 2009, everything was done through the federal government in regards to it was directly sent down to the local governments. It was not a match associated. They were grant funds. Requirements to it were not as strict as what we're seeing today. When I say that, really the biggest thing there was making sure that whatever you did, materials had to be made in the U.S. Because that was the goal here, was to make sure that manufacturing all stayed strong. This infrastructure bill is different. What they've done is that they've taken about 25% of the dollars, and that's what's coming from the federal government down into the local groups. The other 75% is being given to the state. And what's happening is the states are just supplementing their existing programs. And so the grant that you talked about is a RAISE grant. It's a state grant program. And with that becomes more competition in regards to, and the other part is because they are federal dollars and things have changed since 2009, there's more restrictions. And the biggest one is environmental. There has to be environmental studies, and what that's doing is taking what we typically do in 3 months, now saying it's 9 months to get, because I got to get the environmental stuff done first before we go to even take a look at things. In regards to, this is going to be a 5-year process of this grant, where before it was all the dollars were going to be sent down. So the RAISE grant, and who actually got it in Florida dollars were your big communities, Tampa, Miami-Dade, Port Authority. So they were the ones that were like 6 that got dollars out of the first group of RAISE grants, and they were the big players. Our hopes are is that as we move into the next couple of years, those dollars become more trickled down to the local people as we become more competitive in regards to that. But there are multiple grants out there. There's a lot of environmental stuff that we're going after. And there's a lot of other infrastructure stuff that we're going after, cybersecurity and things of that nature. The goal with any grant is to be able to free up your dollars to be able to do something else. However, with these programs, they require a match. And these matches are between 25 to 50%, most of them 50%. So I still have to come up with, if I've got a $8 million project that I want to do, I still got to come up with $4 million just to be able to say that I've got the match for that grant.
Just one more question, please, in the interest of our time here. Any board members? Jim, if you have a quick one.
Yeah, I always have equipment. Hi, Doug.
Hey,
I understand about the infrastructure issues. We've already about 340,000 gallons of waste that went by. How does it get to be 340,000, which is equivalent of 10 or 12 large swimming pools before it's shut off? Isn't there any leak detection or any pressure change or?
no, in regards to that, that's a question you'd probably have to ask Bill. The utilities in regards to that process. I will tell you that, that's a pressurized system,
Right.
and again, not knowing the size of the pipes or things like that.
I mean, we all get that things can leak, but 340,000 gallons is a hell of a lot. The other quick question is about our wastewater or storm sewers. I think you've heard from me on this. I've heard that the county's in charge of cleaning our storm sewers, which in my 15 years, I've hardly ever witnessed being cleaned. And usually when there's a surge or a heavy storm event, they get clogged up because they probably haven't been cleaned. Anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Just so that everybody is aware, it's through an interlocal agreement that the county has full responsibility of the stormwater system in the city of Sarasota. Because of that, that's full responsibility in regards to that. That interlocal agreement is basically come to an end. We will be sitting down with them and negotiating that again. That over this probably next 6 months. But as it stands right now, Sarasota County has full responsibility for it.
Thank you.
Strong.
Doug, let me just say how valuable this was. We really enjoyed the dialogue. We appreciate you coming and probably invite you back. So we'd like to think of ourselves as a positive association looking for mutual wins and look forward to working with you. Patrick was alluding to our experiences with Nick so far, and some of the transportation people have been really good. And we look forward to building on that. So thank you again.
No, I'm thankful that you invited me. I'd be happy to come back again. Further conversation. Please don't hesitate to continue those conversations with the staff. If there are questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Well, you're welcome to stick around for the meeting, or you may have better, more interesting things.
There are definitely some other things that I'm going to go to.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate it all. Thank you very much.